toot, toot. Good morning and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Everything Yesterday This Morning. I am your host, literally Heather. We'll get right into it this morning. Lakeside Refrigerated Services is recalling approximately 120,872 pounds of ground beef sold at retailers throughout the United States over concerns of possible E. coli contamination. According to a notice Monday from the Department of Agriculture's Food Safety and Inspection Service, the beef was produced from February 1st through April 8th and sold under brands including Thomas Farms, Nature's Reserve, Market Side Butcher, Weiss, and Tajima. All of the products subject to the recall have the establishment number, and it says like EST 46841. Inside of the USDA mark of inspection. The problem was discovered during a routine testing of imported products. It doesn't say which products, it doesn't say if this was imported meat, it doesn't specify any of that. It says the FSIS is specifically concerned about E. coli 0103, which can make people ill between 2 and 8 days after consuming the contaminated food. Most people infected experience vomiting, diarrhea, but some may develop more severe illness. There have been no confirmed reports of illness due to the consumption of these products, but it is recommended to check your freezer and discard any recalled products. Perhaps we should just make friends with our local beef farmer and skip that whole import thing. Biden has granted the first 3 pardons of his term, providing clemency to a Kennedy-era Secret Service agent who was convicted of bribery for trying to sell a copy of an agency file and 2 people who were convicted of drug-related charges, but who went on to become pillars in their communities. He has commuted the sentence of 75 others for nonviolent drug-related convictions. The White House announced the clemencies yesterday as it launched a series of job training and re-entry programs for those in prison or recently released. Biden said in a statement, "America is a nation of laws and second chances, redemption and rehabilitation. Elected officials on both sides of the aisle, faith leaders, civil rights advocates, and law enforcement leaders agree that our criminal justice system can and should reflect those core values that enable safer and stronger communities." During his 2020 run, Biden vowed to reduce the number of people incarcerated, because he put a bunch of them there, in the United States and called for nonviolent drug offenders to be diverted to drug courts and treatment. He has also pushed for better training for law enforcement and called for criminal justice system changes to address disparities that have led to minorities and the poor making up a disproportionate share of the nation's incarcerated population. Well, you better go back and repeal that bill. Biden also said helping those who served their time return to their families and become contributing members of their communities is one of the most effective ways to reduce recidivism and decrease crime. The Labor Department is directing $140 million toward programs that offer job training, pre-apprenticeship programs, digital literacy training, and pre- and post-release career counseling. The $1 trillion infrastructure bill passed by Congress last year includes a trio of grant programs that the administration says promote hiring of formerly incarcerated individuals, and the Labor and Justice Department announced yesterday a collaborative plan to provide $145 million over the next year for job skills training as well as individualized employment and reentry plans for people serving time in the Bureau of Prisons. The new initiatives are designed to help more than 600,000 people released from jail each year to get on stable ground. Actually, personally, I'm not opposed to this program. People make mistakes, they make bad decisions. I certainly think that the nonviolent element of many of these crimes is, these people are a drain on society right now as being in the prison system. So the more that we get out and make functioning, contributing members to society, the better their lives will be, and the better society. I mean, the less that we're being expected to pay for that. So I'm not opposed to any of this. I think that these are good moves from any administration. Um, I think that the quote unquote war on drugs is yet another war that has been lost. And we need to be looking at alternative. I mean, shoot, if you right now legalize marijuana and commute the sentences of anyone who was convicted of a marijuana crime, think about how many people's lives are changed instantly in that moment. So I'm actually in favor of something that this administration is doing. So credit where credit is due. Since last year, staff members at the Land Trust of, this is actually kind of a big deal, and just pay attention to this, and I highly encourage you to read this article. It'll be in the description. Since last year, staff members at the Land Trust of Virginia have fielded phone call after phone call from landowners seeking to set aside their property for conservation. The executive director of the nonprofit, Sally Price, said, "We're getting calls like crazy. We're doubling our staff for easement intake because we're getting so many calls." The nonprofit works with private landowners to preserve farms and natural landscapes. The Land Trust expects to complete as many as 30 conservation easements this year, double the number it sees in a typical year, and has recorded a fourfold increase in inquiries. This group is one of many conservation land trusts that have seen a spike in interest over the last few years. More than 1,000 such groups operate across the country, seeking to save land from development by acquiring it or negotiating conservation easements with property owners to limit use of the land. The growing interest in preserving privately held land has sparked a fierce debate between supporters who say such efforts guarantee environmental protections and critics who say that they take away individual property rights. A handful of states are considering expanding their conservation easement programs, which offer tax breaks to landowners in exchange for giving up development rights to their farms and natural lands. In many cases, those easements last in perpetuity, offering protection even when the property changes hands. Roughly 40 million acres nationwide are protected by conservation easements, with about half of that under the stewardship of land trusts. The Biden administration has a goal of 30 by 30, which would require another 440 million acres nationwide protected by conservation easements that would come under protected status. Land trust organizations are mostly nonprofits and have conserved 61 million acres across the country through a mix of easements, outright purchases, and transfers to state agencies. That's greater than the combined area of every national park in the United States. A quarter of that total has been added since 2010. Land trust leaders say their recent success likely stems from several factors: a boom of older residents conducting estate planning, many landowners struggling with the tax burden of family farms and ranches. Maybe we should just remove property taxes. A spice, a spike. I was typing really late last night. A spike in outdoor recreation during the pandemic and a growing appreciation for natural climate solutions. Conservation easements typically lower the market value of the land, so the federal government offers income tax breaks for property owners who put land into easement. Proponents of easements say they allow farmers and ranchers and other landowners to hold on to their land even when development pressures send property values skyrocketing. Contrary to that, though, opponents see the growing interest in conservation easements as a threat. Senator Dave Merman introduced a bill that would limit easements to 99 years and give local governments greater ability to reject such agreements. He said, "To me, a perpetual easement is a tool for taking away property rights from future generations." And he's right. McCleary, the South Dakota Democrat who was defeated in the 2020 election, is running again. And this year says he will continue to push to limit conservation easements. He said he now regrets placing 52 acres into an agreement for wetland protection. The easement has blocked him from planting crops on the land or changing the landscape to improve hunting conditions. Why can't it be 25 or 50 years instead of perpetual? Forever? The next generation may have a different view of what they can do with that land. I have lots of opinions on this, but I don't have a lot of time. So this might be something that we discuss on Friday night's Liberty Happy Hour. A Russian foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, said there is a serious risk of World War III, as he accused NATO of waging a proxy conflict war with Moscow. Lavrov invoked the possibility of the Ukraine war escalating into a nuclear conflict, despite the repeated insistence by the Kremlin that it would only use conventional weapons. Kiev dismissed Lavrov's comments as an attempt to scare the world off from supporting Ukraine. Lavrov was asked to compare the danger of a nuclear confrontation today with what the world faced during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Lavrov said Moscow and Washington should recommit to a pledge by Gorbachev and Reagan that, quote, there can be no winners in a nuclear war. I don't know what it is about every time I get on here, but like everything, I get these little itches all over my entire body. So I'm sorry, like I'm constantly like scratching and touching myself because it drives me nuts. Anyway, sorry. I know that's distracting. He said there can be no winners in nuclear war. The risks are very significant. I don't want them artificially inflated, but the danger is serious, real. It cannot be underestimated. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, there were not many written rules, but the rules of conduct were clear enough. Moscow understood how Washington was behaving. Washington understood how Moscow was behaving. Now, there are few rules left. He went on to suggest that agreements such as the 2010 New START Treaty, limiting strategic warheads and launchers, which was renewed until 2026 when Biden took office, were key to curbing nuclear threats. Lavrov's comments come as UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is due to meet with Putin. I think he went yesterday, like the time zone differences, I'm not sure when. Those talks are expected to focus on Mariupol. Meanwhile, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmitry Kuleba said talk of a real danger of World War III only means Moscow senses defeat in Ukraine. It's hard, with propaganda and things like that, it's hard to know like what's really going on. But I mean, speaking of Russia, okay, so we're going to go to this next subject. Russian energy firm Gazprom has told Poland and Bulgaria it will stop sending gas to the two countries. Polish state gas company said it has been told all gas deliveries will be halted, and the Bulgarian Energy Ministry has also said it has been informed deliveries will be suspended. It comes after Russia said unfriendly countries must start paying for gas in rubles or it would cut supplies. Both countries have refused to pay in this way. Poland relies on Gazprom for the majority of its gas imports and bought 53% of its imports from the Russian company in the first quarter of this year. Bulgaria, on the other hand, relies on Gazprom for more than 90% of its gas supply. On May 1st, a new gas pipeline connecting with Lithuania is due to open that will give Poland access to gas from Lithuania's LNG terminal, and a new pipeline delivering gas from Norway, known as the Baltic Pipe, comes online in October. There's a lot of competition on an already tight gas market. When the heating season starts again in the fall and demand rises, Poland could face a tricky couple of months securing enough supply. And, guys, I'm always saying this is interesting. This will be interesting to watch it play out because Russia's taking a gamble. And I think the payoff might be greater if this was taking place in late summer or early fall, moving into the colder months. But it feels like they're cutting their nose off in spite of their own faces at this point, because these other countries in these months that are warmer will have the ability to find ways to circumvent Russian oil. So then Russia's going to be sitting there with a ton of supply and no one to supply it to. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. Last one of the day, with the high profile case of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard playing out on the public stage, it's hard not to notice the amplified message that men are abused too. Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher, Trevor Bauer is now suing the woman who accused him of sexual assault, contending that her motive was to destroy his reputation and his baseball career, garner attention for herself, and extract millions of dollars from the player. The suit was filed Monday in California, seeks unspecified monetary and punitive damages. Bauer contends the woman fabricated allegations of sexual assault and made false, malicious statements as she sought a domestic violence restraining order last June. Why does this sound so familiar? He has been on leave since July, although the LA County DA declined to file charges. Bauer has denied all wrongdoing. The court filing describes in graphic detail the two sexual encounters between Bauer and the woman. Bauer does admit to having rough sex with her, which he said was at her request, and never performed a sexual act that she did not want. The woman, in her request for the restraining order, accused him of acts that included choking her to the point of unconsciousness and punching her to the point of needing medical attention. The restraining order was denied. The suit also states the woman texted a friend and told her they would be able to travel to Europe together in style once she was successful in her plot to destroy Mr. Bauer by tricking him into having rough and rougher sex with her. Bauer's paid leave has been extended multiple times, and it's due to expire on Friday. Major League Baseball has been conducting its own investigation and can choose to suspend Bauer under league policies even if no criminal charges are filed. Do you guys remember when Donald Trump was on that bus and that clip of him saying, when you're a star, they let you do it? You can do anything. Grab him by the pussy. You can do anything. These are the types of women that he was referencing. The only thing that has changed is they now ask or let you do these things, and then they weaponize the interaction to maximize their benefit and minimize their responsibility. I'm ashamed of women like this. I'm ashamed that they exist, and I'm ashamed that they are ever rewarded for this type of behavior. I have a son, and I swear I'm considering betrothal so he never has to deal with this. That is Wednesday's edition of Everything Yesterday This Morning. I went really long this morning. I'm sorry, but had good stuff to cover. I love you guys. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.